Hey guys, Stealth here. In this video, which I originally wasn't planning on showing you, I wanted to highlight my West German deck. But my gameplay this game was so bad that I was not going to show it to you because I don't want to show you something that atrocious. Still, I decided to air it anyway, and instead of actually highlighting the German deck, I'm going to do a bit of error analysis, what went wrong. By doing this, you can make sure that the next time around you don't have any bad games, or at least that you can improve your gameplay along the way. Now, I am in a 10v10 tactical game, so we get a lot less income and we get a lot less supplies. So we don't get to deploy as many forces as we normally would. We have to be quite strategical and tactical about what we bring in and where we put it, and we really have to communicate. Now, I was not on TeamSpeak with any of these guys, so again it was pretty much a free-for-all slash everything versus chat. I put down where I'm going to put my CV, right here in the back, and I'm going to plan on going to this small area here. I rarely played on this map before. This map is called A Maze in Japan, and this map is very forests and hills. That's pretty much all you have here. It has a lot of room for ambushes. You can do a lot of infantry operations along these ridges. Try to get some ATGMs on these ridges, and you can shoot down in pretty much all directions onto oncoming vehicles. But it is a horrible scenario for tanks and vehicles, because the engagement range, especially when you're operating in this area where I was operating in, the engagement range is about 500 meters. And at that range it really doesn't matter if your tank has 20 frontal armor or 5. Because at this point it just doesn't matter for the AP value. Now, to highlight my opening move, I was going to go to this position. You can see it here pinging on the map. I'm bringing a couple of flak Jeopards, and it's hard to isolate my units from the others. Flak Jeopards here in front, a couple of Martyr 1s after that to come in with a couple of Panzer Grenadiers. Next up I have, let's see if I can find them, yeah, here they are, a couple of Kyler tanks with the autocannon and the main gun, 3 mortars and a Scout Leopard. That's my force for now. That's all I had points for. So this is quite a long replay. I'm going to speed up some parts. Now this, what you saw the enemy do here is quite a nasty surprise. He launched, I think, from about there, and he completely decimated the area with napalm. Very nasty, because all of my units have already taken some damage. They aren't panicked yet, but it does mean that some of these guys just cannot operate as well as they normally would. It also sends up large smoke, or big puffs of smoke, to make sure that they block vision. And you can see that there was already a scout chopper here. Now my ally didn't bring any AA units, or they got destroyed. I'm not too sure. They might be in this LVTP-7A1. Actually, these are SMAWs. These are SMAWs. They're being offloaded right there. He had no AA. 0. Bad play. I had some AA, but it was pretty difficult to have them fire from there onto those helos. He also had to deal with some of these T-72Bs and a couple of BMPTs, one here and one of something further in the back. So he was pretty much taking all of the losses here. I tried to help him with my mortar carriers, and this is actually the first bad play for me. After I fired these mortar carriers, contrary to what I normally do, I didn't relocate them. And guess what happens? They're gonna get countered. Sometimes you just have these moments of shit to the brain. You just have a really bad game. And I mean, look, here they go. Instant counterfire. Now these things are so poorly armored that instantly I lose a mortar carrier. And I believe I lose a second one as well. You can see just how much damage these things have already taken. To make matters worse, these things have an autonomy of 270 kilometers, so they cannot really retreat very far. Taking a lot of fire again, a lot of MLRS barrage, and again, napalm. There goes another mortar carrier. And at this point in the game, I was already going, ah, shit, it's going to be one of those games. I'm not going to do well here. I had my Kylers up here on this ridge, but they have very bad shots at everything. Because at some point, if they're here, they're going to be able to shoot this TO-62, usually. But they don't have a lot of recon in here. There were some Navy SEALs operating in this area, but other than that, we had zero recon. More artillery fire, this time going for the Panzer Grenadiers. Luckily they're inside a building, so they're not as easy targetable as the others. And they don't take as much damage. Trying to get my Kylers back, and my Kylers have medium optics of their own, but that does mean that in a forest they're going to have to be pretty much on top of this tank before they see it. Putting down an attack marker. Something killed these assault engineers. I think they got caught by napalm. And this thing is just put down a roadblock. A lot of napalm up here. Brought in a Peace Rhine to try and deal with this guy. And these Peace Rhines, if you haven't seen them before, they're ATGM planes carrying a fire and forget Maverick missile, good AP power and good accuracy, so a nice weapon all round. But they do need vision on something, they cannot blindly fire that missile. I'm trying to relocate my Leopard 1 here to make sure that I can provide visuals for this Kyler. And you can see just how close these guys have to get before they actually see that tank. It is very, very nearby, and it's only a 35 point vehicle. At this point, these guys were completely isolated, they had no AA around, and Kylers are generally not the weapon of choice to use against the T-72B, especially when this thing is peeking out and going back in. So I was trying to get my Peace Rhine on target, but he couldn't find the target and I called him off. Nighthawk takes a shot. I'm not sure if he got it, but I saw AA firing from this position, so I put down a marker here. Speed it up a little. Over here there was not really a lot I could do. I could try to push up with some infantry, but I didn't have any, nor did I have the money to buy one. My ally on this side was not very good. And we had some very, very dangerous vehicles out here. You can see, I'm keeping my tank in the same position for too long, it gets mortied. Trying to get a couple of Fern Speyer scouts up here now. And these Fern Speyers are going to be trying to spot any CVs in here, because I'm thinking it's going to be right around there. Again, new units taking fire. I did manage to take down a VDV group here, but I lost my Leopard. My Flak Panzer Jeopards took a lot of fire. So let's stop it here and see what I did wrong. I did a lot of things wrong here. I kept my tank isolated without AA, without recon for way too long. That means that it had to go all the way back to the FOB here, get repaired and travel back through enemy lines by that time. My Fern Speyers were going to be capable of spotting stuff here, but I had nothing to shoot at it because the only offensive long-range unit I had was my ATGM plane, and I was not going to risk that thing again with the AA in here. My mortar carrier was now out of fuel, and it couldn't really reach the end of that zone, so even if I did spot the CV, I couldn't fire at it. I sent this Leopard up here on its own, without any infantry escort, so the infantry versus infantry, which is usually the best in woods, didn't happen. I should have sent a couple of Panzer Grenadier groups with them. Didn't do that, lost my recon. Now it's difficult to get a new group of recon in here, because I'm going to have to fly it over, because this road is now pretty much a no-go zone. I kept my Flak Panzer Jeopards at the same spot for way too long, and the VDV spotted them. So by being spotted, they take a lot of mortar fire and they take a lot of hit points off. So in this short amount of time, quite a bit of mistakes, and it was at this point pretty difficult for me not to quit the game, because I was having such a bad game that I was being more of a what do you call that again? More of a burden to my team than a blessing. Now we can see there are some units here, BTR and an MTLVB, even a Spetsnaz group. And there is a T-72B rolling around here. The French players are crossing this small patch of open area, and hopefully they're not going to get spotted. I'm trying to call in my Tornado IDS again, but I do not know where the targets are, so I'm calling it away. And this is, by the way, the Tornado 1DS or IDS. It's not the ATGM plane, this is the actual bomber. You can again see some action going on here. Martyr 2 took out that Spetsnaz group, but he also loses one Martyr. So at short range these Martyrs are good, but I would prefer to keep them at a longer range. On my side there is just nothing happening. I'm not pushing in, I don't have the points, I don't have the weapon systems to do it. So I'm pretty much stuck here. Especially this thing, this is completely stuck, out of fuel. This is also not such a good move from ISR. He was pushing in with 3 Leclercs. That's a 540, no. That's a 380 point group of units. Very, very expensive. Very unexperienced. And you can see that at this range, these T-72Bs are very, very dangerous to these tanks. This one took a hit, and yeah, because they have autoloaders they managed to fire a little bit faster than those T-72Bs. They destroy them, but this one took a lot of damage already. He's backing it up by a couple of Leopard 1A5s, but he has 0 recon. So I may have played bad, but this wasn't ideal either. So, lesson to learn here, if you're doing an operation like this, make sure you have recon in the area. Because for all we knew, they were having a lot of helicopters here, and the helicopters could easily take down all of these tanks, go back to base, rearm with ATGMs and come back. Still trying to acquire a target for my Peace Rhine, but the Peace Rhine cannot see anything and instead it gets taken down by 2 Tungushkas. So that was another great play by me, losing a 120 point ATGM plane and scoring 0 kills with it. Once I saw those Tungushkas I thought, okay, we're going to need a seed plane. Brought in my Tornado ECR. The ECR tried to acquire a shot, but this guy beneath me with the Tungushkas was definitely a very, very good player. And he immediately turned his radar systems off just to prevent such a thing. Instead, this thing starts taking fire from an Su-27PU and some other long-range AA. So I'll also lose that plane. Over here again another long-range napalm strike from about this position, but we had absolutely nowhere to counter it. I could have brought in Artie, but Artie was pretty expensive because we only had about 2 points of income. Here's the command infantry, and he finally gets taken down. I'm actually quite surprised that these guys are still alive. These Leclercs and the Leopard 1A5s. Let's see it from their side and see what exactly they had. They have a couple of Spetsnaz in here, who are very good against other infantry, but not great when you're fighting tanks, because those napalm launchers only have an HE value, not an AP value. They have a couple of Skrzets, AA guns, they have a couple of Igla Ns, a BTR-80, which at short range is potentially lethal to those Leopard 1A5s, but I wouldn't worry too much. 2 Tungushkas, and that's it. They're bringing in another scout chopper now, who just spotted my front spares, and they're bringing in more infantry. Again, I am pretty much stuck doing nothing. I have repaired my tank, and the moment that the tank goes back to the front line, of course, it takes another bit of damage from this napalm on the road. Again, a bad play by me. I should have waited a bit longer. 3 Leclercs are down here on this, sorry, 2 Leclercs, he split them up. 2 Leclercs die here on this flank, and this way we're giving the enemy quite a bit of points. 0 air defense again. And you can see that the KA-52 here, I believe, or the KA-50, I'm not sure which it was, is doing a lot of damage to these Leopards. The Leclerc has taken some shots, and my Kyler is just casually going down this road. Yeah, it's a KA-50. So again, an awful play by me. I should never have put this Kyler in a position like this, because it was just easy targets. Now interestingly, I am doing some damage to these choppers using my autocannon. But, of course, this thing is not going to live long against 2 helicopters firing very, very heavy weaponry at it. By now I've had it. I'm starting to push up with my Flak Panzer Jeopards. I'm bringing my Panzer Grenadiers from this building and the Mortar 1s. And I'm trying to find the CV that's hiding here. But, if you're looking at this the right way, you're going to see that I have no recon. And then using Flak Jeopards like this, with the weapon system on, I'm just embarrassed about how bad this play is. If you want to push up with Jeopards through a forest, you could keep the weapon systems on, but if they do regular seed sorties, which they do, you should turn the weapon systems off. The Panzer Grenadiers I should not have kept in one group. I should have had them in 3 groups. 3 separate groups would have been much more safe for the groups themselves. Instead I keep them in one group, so another bad play. This is not how you play Wargame. What I should have done, split them out into 3 separate sections. And with those separate sections, scout that way, and that way. And by now, the Flak Panzer Jeopards were horribly out of position to deal with this plane. This JH-7 is a tank sniper. Long range heat missile firing 26 AP power, and I just had no way of stopping this thing. And this guy actually has the audacity to use his infrareds to try and go after this Thunderbolt. Now this guy ISR, who isn't the best player it seems, because he just said I lost 8 tanks because you motherfucking shit wouldn't help. Yeah, well, you could have brought your own AA and you didn't even request it, so I was really getting pissed off with this guy. I mean, I wasn't playing very well, but that's some bad play too. I'm finding... sorry, I'm looking at a missile launch here, trying to get my guys in here in time. Even finding some of that annoying Morty, also known as mortar carriers. But by now my infantry was taking a lot of fire, while my Jeopards were not capable of doing a lot about it. I do manage to take down this plane, I believe, 130 points, but I lose 1 Jeopard and 1 barely makes it out. So, another bad play. Don't send your Jeopard out here unescorted. If you do a push, do it with many units, not 1. Moreover, this Jeopard was already halfway through its weapon magazine. It only had 340 rounds left. I did manage to do some... No, sorry, I didn't manage to do any damage to this Su-27SK. And instead I only give my position away to the other units. I'm suppressing some stuff here so that my Panzer Grenadiers can engage. But this guy was just a dead man walking. No ammo, no health, running out of fuel. Bad play. If you want to use a Jeopard, use it in an ambush position. Put it up here, be done with it. And by now, these were the only units I had in the game. My recon here got taken out. My infantry came out of these buildings and pushed up. And my mortar carrier is still out of fuel. So trying to move in here, but of course by now those MLRS launchers are long gone. So I had absolutely no business being here. Interestingly, we have an Mi-6 chopper flying right overhead. That's a very nice 85 point snack for my Jeopard. And that's pretty much the last kill he makes, because he just has 88 rounds left. Trying to use these guys as spotters now, which was not the worst idea, but they only have medium optics and they have good stealth, not great stealth. I'll take down another chopper, that's nice. Completely out of ammo. And this is where shit goes completely sideways, because I run into an Mi-8T and an Mi-28, which is not a good foresight for these Panzer Grenadiers. These guys really don't like taking fire from a weapon system like that. I'm surprised that these Panzer Grenadiers are still here. Apparently they didn't think these guys warranted a bombing run. I would have instantly put down a couple of bombs up on these guys and eradicated them. Because I am getting very close to their spawn. Sure, I wouldn't have spotted these guys even if I was on top of them with only medium optics. But they think it's just enough to take these guys out with an Mi-28, and of course they're right. An Mi-28 has some frontal armor, some side armor. It is panicked, but it's still firing its autocannon with 60% effectiveness. So my Panzer Grenadiers are desperately trying to get in cover or get in range of their machine gun and assault rifle to do some damage to this chopper. But of course by now it was way too late. Getting some more fire onto this thing, but yeah, this was never going to work. Interestingly, I did stun this thing. You can see it bouncing around here. And just the moment that this thing regains consciousness, more or less, he's going to take out those Panzer Grenadiers. Now I did bring in another unit here. I brought in another Fernspeyer. And I'm going to push that guy up and try to do the same thing, except that this guy has exceptional stealth and these guys don't have exceptional stealth. So they are taking their sweet time taking out these Panzer Grenadiers. I was quite surprised by this. I thought that they would just wipe these guys out in one go. But as if that wasn't bad enough, here's a BMP-T. The best infantry killer that Russia has to offer, carrying both a grenade launcher, an autocannon and a sort of a main gun. And then I run into a recon and the game is up for the Panzer Grenadiers. I'm getting my Fernspayers to run up this hill as fast as possible. Again, I don't have a lot of units, but I do bring in another Tornado IDS to try and get some shots on any of these guys. I'm noticing that I'm marking that I'm bombing this house. And of course, by the time you actually get to the house, the VDV have crossed over to the other side, and that's when my bombs arrive on this house. So again, pretty much of a very pissed off moment for me, because I didn't track my target and I wasn't going to hit any of these VDVs. And again, I was losing a lot more units than I was actually getting. I was not making a lot of kills. I had 730 points, but I had definitely lost more than 730. This side is now being reinforced by another unit. We have ISR here, and we have some other guys. We have Timo Faika. And he was really doing a good job on this flank. ISR apparently smartened up and brought some AA. But we do not have a long-range air defense network, so we don't have any long-range AA to deal with those planes. I'm trying to bring in a couple new units. One new unit actually, a Flak Panzer Jeopardy 1. And I want to get this guy to the front line to help with the AA defense. Because there is not a lot of stuff that I can do otherwise. I don't have the points to bring in much else. Now, Timo Faika also had a Flak Panzer Jeopardy 1 here. He was smart enough to turn off his weapons, I was not, and I'm gonna pay for that. And this is again another shit to the brain moment, and when you're playing like this, I noticed that you really need to take a deep breath, because otherwise you're just gonna keep playing as bad as I did. If I would have just taken a moment, reassembled my forces, gathered my thoughts, I would not have let this thing be active all the time. Because there were planes constantly flying overhead, which was nice. I could engage those. But I could not take, or I didn't take the threat of a seed plane into account, and I'm gonna pay for that. Front spares up on this ridge. They are functioning as early spotters for planes, so we can see planes coming in here. But they also spotted a couple of these small BTR AA guns, so I'm gonna have to keep my distance. Trying to do a bombing run on them with my tornado. And of course, it doesn't hit anything. I'm not sure how and why, but these bombs don't kill any unit here. Instead, they get a response from an IL-2, IL-102. You can see I did damage these guys, by the way. I try to send in a peace Rhine, he barely makes it out because those two Tungushkas are still out here. Front spares take out one of those crash jets, but there's another one. And they fired both of their laws, so I need to get them out of here. By now I was also playing around with a Tiger Recon. Oh, by the way, there goes my Recon unit. KA-52 takes it out. Again, bad play. My Recon was isolated from AA. If I had manpads here or there, I would have taken out that chopper and that one, scoring me a grand total of 260 points, but instead I lose 45. Bad play. I was playing around a bit with this Tiger helicopter, but this thing was taking fire all the time, so I had to keep flying it back to FOBs to get it repaired. And like I said at the beginning of the video, sometimes you just have these games where nothing seems to work. Nothing seems to go right and nothing seems to be working for you. No unit seems to work. You don't get recon, you miss a support unit which is vital to survival. You can see that just took out my Flak Panzer Jeopard using a seed missile from that KA-52 recon. So I lost another unit. And instead I've now decided that I'm going to play it very carefully. I'm going to bring in a couple of manpads and a Fuchs. Get this Fuchs up on this ridge and from here on move towards this ridge line to defend against all of those helicopters which are constantly coming in. And that is pretty much all I had points for. I couldn't do anything else right now. My Tiger was going to be instrumental in spotting these guys because my ally didn't have a lot of recon. So I was doing a bit of sorting over this side to make sure that those BMPTs were being lit up. The 52 and the Mi-28. They sent an Mi-2 US this way and another one. My Fuchs are still moving to position, so I don't actually have a shot. And instead I end up losing another tornado, because I thought that doing a bombing run on this position was a good idea when there were still two Tungushkas out. So again I lose a 140 point plane, I think. Bad play. This is another bad play. My Tiger is not going to spot anything when it's behind this hill. If you want to use a recon helicopter, you put it on the hill and you tell it not to drop below the ridge line or to drop below the tree line. You use the change altitude button, and that way you're actually an asset to your team. This thing was just camping. It didn't see anything, it wasn't going to see anything, and it surely wasn't going to fire any of its weapons. So again, bad play. Now, let it be known that after this video I am not a player who is never playing badly. And if you're still watching, kudos to you. I hope that you're actually learning something from all of my mistakes here. and that I show you that I too have bad games and that it's alright so long as you actually learn from them. Let's speed it up to the point where I actually get some interesting units. My Fuchs have almost arrived on top of this hill, getting the Fliegerfausts out and getting those in a position where they can intercept planes or vehicles like helicopters. Instead, we're instantly getting countered by a BMPT. And again, no recon on my part, so I would have known about these guys if I had recon. Getting them out, and these guys are just running down the hill as fast as they can now. And just imagine being in a position like this, where you have a very large, very dangerous BMP behind you. By now, this was pretty much getting a standoff here on this line. We couldn't push in, and they couldn't push in either, because we had quite a bit of units in here. And by we, I mean my allies, because I didn't contribute to this defense at all. Still trying to bring in my Tiger here. Also bringing in a couple of ATGM helicopters. And they are shelling this T-72B, but it is not getting spotted. Firing my Tiger with his Hot 2 missiles at these guys, but they're retreating into the forest and I miss. And the one kill I make is 5 points. Good work for me, 5 points. Scored by a helicopter worth 120 points. I just need to do that about 50 more times and I get good value out of this helicopter. So I'm again calling back my helicopter. My Tiger is out of Hot 2 missiles and I do want those available. So I'm putting it down on the fob. I was now considering bringing in all of my planes because they all have AA missiles. This one has AMRAAMs and AIM-9Ls. This one has AIM-9Ls and same for this guy. So I can put on quite a bit of fire on these planes. But by now the planes were dead and there was still a Tunguska, so I instantly evac'd all of these guys, not to give them another 300 and something points for all of these planes. Or 400 probably. Still saving up for some more units right now, and I do have these ATGM helicopters. But they are having a hard time actually acquiring a target. My Fliegerfausts are moving up, and just when they do, I spot a Spetsnaz VMF. Sniper team. Not something you want to tango with when you're using Fliegerfausts. I'm trying to get my ATGM helicopters onto position, and these guys are also hovering behind the tree line, not being able to take a shot at anything. They were never going to do a lot of damage here. So again, same deal for these guys as for the Tiger which I had hiding up here. If you use this play, make sure it's hovering above the tree line where I can actually fire the missiles. My Tiger is back, rearmed and repaired, and I'm trying to get this guy to do some scouting. Interestingly enough, my mortar carrier is still here. They didn't actually engage that. Firing a missile at the BMPT, missed. Firing again. Hit. But this thing has a ton of frontal armor, 15. But after 2 missiles it finally dies. I had intentionally turned off the rocket pods because I wanted to save those for infantry or other units. So I still have 1 hot missile left. And by now I really want to get rid of these T-72Bs, but there is a Tunguska in this area, so it's very, very dangerous for me to actually come in here with a unit like these helicopters or the Tiger. I have a piece round circling overhead in case I do get sight of those T-72Bs, but there's just nothing spotting them. A couple of BMPTs are being spotted, but we barely have anything that in range that can do anything against that. I'm moving my ATGM helicopters into a more favorable position where they can actually fire at this road. Same with the Tiger. The Tiger doesn't have any hot missiles left, it just fired its last one. But it can still do some damage, and this T-72B probably got hit by me. I'm not too sure. I get my Tiger back, and of course, being a Tiger helicopter, it has to be somewhat near the front because it's a recon chopper. So I was calling it back too far. This, however, was the other side of the coin, and I was being too aggressive. So I was constantly overcorrecting my moves, either doing too much or too little, going too far with my units, or not far enough to actually get a shot. So again, fired all of its rocket pods, didn't even do damage to cargo trucks. Spot a Spetsnaz group. This is the recon group. Very, very dangerous, very good sniper rifle and AP power. Trying to get a shot onto these T-72Bs with my ATGM helicopters, while the Tiger is spotting them. But they are moving reverse into this forest, so it's very, very dangerous to keep pursuing them, especially with my Tiger taking fire from BTR-80A. You can see that even a small burst did a lot of damage. I lost 3 blocks of health, so I do really have to be careful with this helicopter. Now these prowlers overhead were very dangerous to their Tunguska presence, because it meant that they couldn't actually use those. If they were active, they would have been insta-killed by these prowlers, so he couldn't activate those and keep them alive at the same time. My Tiger is now also taking fire from BMPTs. Not really beneficial to your health if you're flying a helicopter like this. And I was hoping that someone would actually take a shot at these Spetsnaz, because I had nothing that could do it. But there was just no one firing artillery at it. So, getting another tornado in, trying to do some damage, doing a bombing on these BMPTs. But of course it gets taken out by 2 air superiority fighters flying overhead. And I do not get any points from this bombing run. So again, lost a very precious bomber. Got a new Tunguska coming in, and the Tunguska is smart enough... Oh, actually I thought he would have turned off his main weapon system, but he hasn't. He is firing these missiles. You know what, actually I think he did turn them off, otherwise they would have been firing. This guy is called Giangio. No, they're still active. Interesting. And because I wasn't paying attention to these guys, I was just about to lose them. Tunguska fires. Take down both helicopters with 1 round. I lose 120 points of units. Switching back to my side. So that was that unit. Instantly get the Tiger back out, trying to get these guys to rearm. And especially get them repaired, because he took almost all of his health. I do need that thing. I saved up for some new units. I'm bringing a couple of Martyr 2s, combined with Panzer Grenadiers, of course. These are going to be my push into this area. Also bringing in a couple of Martyr VTS-1s. These are my anti-tank killers, because even at close range they have very, very lethal gun. And to top it all off, I have a Leopard 2A4. Now, like I said, this was going to be my German playthrough, or my German highlight, but it really didn't turn into that. And instead, this is turning into a how to kill your German units video, more or less. So please don't take this as an example of how to play the Germans, because there are people who can manage their German deck a lot better. And I can manage my German deck a lot better too. I don't know, I just had a bad day yesterday and a bad game. Now getting these mortars into position, waiting for the VTS to catch up and the Leopard 2A4. Recon helicopters arrived, so by now I have a good group here. Until someone blasts my Tiger out of the sky. Probably one of those Tunguskas here firing those long-range missiles. So pushing up with the Martyrs and the VTS and the Leopard 2A4. There was some AA here, although not too much from our side. So we're going to have to be very, very careful against dealing with these units in here, especially if there's helicopters. 2 Su-25s are coming in. Interesting because they're pretty pricey. And they try to take a couple of shots at these Mortar VTS or the Mortar 2, I'm not too sure which. But they miss all of their rounds so far. Don't do this, says ISR. Yeah, well, thank you, but I didn't see you do a lot for your team either, except lose units. I still have my Fliegerfausts up here. They fired 4 missiles, but they didn't actually kill anything, I think. And I got a second group of Fuchs with mortars, with Fliegerfausts coming in, and a group of Mortar 1s carrying more Panzer Grenadiers, because I want to again push over this hill. And that means that by now I have my infantry, I have an IFV with an autocannon, and I have my AA ready. So by now I have a good coverage. The only thing I'm missing here is recon. But I didn't have enough points at this time to get some recon in. Now, Timo Faiko is putting down a beacon here, reconcentrate. I have absolutely no idea what he meant. Concentrating your units means that you focus them on one side. He said reconcentrate, so I think he meant either get them all into this zone, which I thought was suicide, or spread them all out, which I did. I put my Mortar VTS here, my Mortar 2's there, and my Leopard 2A4 in cover. He was taking some fire from this Mi-28, but luckily the Attacker 5s or Attacker Vs didn't do any damage. Took down a 95-point tank with my Mortar VTS. And over here the Panzer Grenadiers are engaging a group of 20 VDVs, but you can see just how effective those VDVs are against my Panzer Grenadiers. This may also have had to do with the fact that these were only hardened, I think, and these were the level above it. Jeez, I cannot even remember the veterancy levels now. It's gotten that bad. Definitely a bad game. Getting my Fliegerfaust into position. I should have offloaded my mortars, but these VDVs are still being a pain in my ass, and they take down 1 mortar and 8 Panzer Grenadiers. So trying to push some fire onto these VDVs and get them out of the way. Finally get them. This Mortar VTS-1 is being engaged by VDV, and well, guess who's going to win? And by now I should have actually retreated this tank, because having a tank this far forward would only make it a very nice snack for some VDVs. Splitting up my Panzer Grenadiers and my mortars to get as much ground coverage as possible. By now the scores were 1500 points ahead for us, but that was certainly not thanks to me. I didn't even have 10% of the points, so I wasn't even paying that much of my share in the game. Now let's have a look at this situation. What I should have done differently here is have more recon. I do have some recon which is pretty fast off-road recon, either the Fern Spears, or I believe I have a Lux in there. And either of those could have worked. Either of those could have been effective at spotting for these mortars, for the Fliegerfaust, the Panzer Grenadiers. But I didn't have it. These helicopters could have been very, very dangerous to my Panzer Grenadiers. My Fliegerfaust were out of position, and the other Fliegerfaust which were up here got killed. So next time I should move my Fliegerfaust over more to the middle, where they can actually do something to help out these Panzer Grenadiers. Over here I had my Marder 2s crawl up this hill as well. Again, packing a lot more, sorry, not packing Panzer Grenadiers, because out of 40 guys moving in, only 2 came out. They were fighting off against those VDVs. I had my tank up here, but that in the end didn't see any action. And interestingly, the game didn't end because we had so many points. The game ended because the timer ran out. The timer was set to 60 minutes and the timer just ran out and we went out of time. Su-25 gets taken down. My mortars are finally getting up this hill. Still a good off-road speed at 65. Over here we are doing, or ISR is doing a push. And he's getting instantly repelled by these BMPTs, VDVs and a BMD-3. Carrying a very dangerous autocannon, very lethal to infantry, as you can just see. Let's analyze this situation. What he could have done here is bring some more heavy units, or I could have pushed in here with my tank. I'm not sure why he pushed in with infantry and not combined that with the Leclerc, because the Leclerc would just kill the BMPTs and that BMD-3 very, very quickly, securing the way for those Fallschirmjäger and the remaining Panzer Grenadiers. Pushing up here, Marder 2's running out of fuel, naturally at the front line where you least need them to run out of fuel. So next time I'm using Marder 2's, even though these guys have a very good autonomy of 500 kph or 500 kilometers, I do need to rearm them and resupply them. Because getting these things stuck in a forest like this is deadly. Only 2 minutes left on the clock. And I was not in a position to actually deal with these helicopters, unfortunately. My Marder 1's take out one of these final remaining Screjets, and there was not a CV in this area where I did expect it. So let's see actually where their CV is. And it's hiding right here, in the middle. Command infantry. I was never going to spot that until I was right on top of it. Other than that, they had a Spetsnaz group here, a Promet. What the hell is that? That's an AA unit. Probably the transport for those Spetsnaz. Some AA, a transport, a Z9A, autocannon, helicopter and some Legions. Other than that they had nothing here. So I could have easily pushed these Panzer Grenadiers towards this bush and killed them. But I was too tunnel visioned into thinking that, okay, if I'm going to put in a command vehicle here, it's going to be a command vehicle. I wasn't even considering command infantry at this point. And I just pushed my Panzer Grenadiers down this hill trying to get to this little bush. But instead they were just here in the middle. And that didn't occur to me at any time. You can see another helicopter coming in, very dangerous Mi-28, and he takes out instantly a group of Panzer Grenadiers. And before I have time to retaliate with my Fliegerfaust, he retreats. And that's the end of the game. That's when the timer ran out. Now let's have a look at how bad it is. And it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I cost my team 400 points, which is of course not good. But still, the rest of my team did okay. ISR even did okay as well. I wasn't really expecting this, because he was doing a lot of weird shit with his tanks. But still, what I can learn from this gameplay, and what I hope you can learn from this gameplay as well, make sure you have the right combinations of units. Always have recon. I cannot highlight this enough. Recon, recon, recon. If I had a recon in those bushes in the north, I would have known there was command infantry. If I had better recon to the left flank, I would have known that there was more AA. I would have played more carefully, and I would have survived with all of those units. Instead, I ended up doing all sorts of stupid stuff, and I ended up costing my team 400 points. Of course, I did make some kills. I did get some command points, although barely any. And this was just a bad game for me. I don't intend to let this happen again. I learned from my mistakes, and I hope you learned from my mistakes as well. If you've seen any that I haven't highlighted, please let me know in the comments below. And if you actually learned something from this gameplay, please give this video a like. Sorry, please give it a like. My voice is cutting out again. If you want to see more Wargame, which is a lot higher quality gameplay, which I'm going to be uploading next, I mean, not like getting 1400 kills and 1800 losses. If you want to see some better stuff, subscribe to my channel and I'll try not to let you guys down. Thanks for watching, thanks for your patience with me in this game, and see you next video.